If you're willing to only own one pair of jeans for the rest of your life, I mean, hell, Susie, you got so many different jackets, you could make a lot more money by not buying these crazy ass jackets and investing that money, and then guess what? You could buy a friend a cup of coffee. My wife has gotten after me multiple times a decade ago because I would turn on a program, I'd watch it, I'd start yelling at the TV. And she's like, what are you doing? Why are you getting all upset? And it's been so long, and now my team thinks it'd be kind of funny to pull up the same program or some videos, and this will be the first time I've watched them, and just have a little reaction. So this is my reaction to Susie Ormo.
It would be one thing if you had a cup of coffee once a week, maybe 3 times a month, but that's not what you do. You go in every single day. It's a ritual. It's part of your day. And you spend $1 to $3 on a cup of coffee, which is approximately $100 a month. An example, $100 a month in a Roth IRA over 40 years is $1 million. So you need to think about it as you are peeing $1 million down the drain after you're drinking that coffee. Do you really want to do that? No. Can you just make coffee at home? Every single penny counts. It's not a need, it is a want. Peeps, if you just simply used your money to purchase needs versus wants, you would find the money to invest in your retirement accounts. You would
First off, I can't even finish the video because saying that if you just invest in your needs versus you want, that's a recipe for a miserable life. Like, okay, $1 to $3, I don't know where they're buying their coffee. I mean, I buy Intelligentsia, I have my own machine. It costs me more than that to make it home because I like quality coffee. Now, I haven't met those millionaires or multi-millionaires that are that way because they gave up their coffee. Like, $100 a month. Here's 100 other ways that you could get that. Number one, restructure loans, renegotiate interest rates, improve your credit score, and pay the institutions less money. Stop overpaying on your taxes. If you're getting a refund, change your exemptions so that you can earn interest over that time versus just, have the government hold on to your money. You could find the non-performing fees and all these costs inside of the IRAs that she's recommending, eliminate those and be way further ahead than the $100 a month. There's so much more opportunity, and then rather than cutting out or cutting back, especially on something like caffeine. I love coffee, and okay, so let's say I give this up and it saves me $1,200 a year. I know so many ways to improve my finances more than $1,200, and so can you. And that notion drives me nuts of needs versus wants, because some of the best things in the world have nothing to do with need, they have to do with want. Travel, experiences, quality of life, the things that we enjoy. And if you're constantly feeling guilty and restrained and like you can't go out there and do that because it makes you feel like you're less worth it, the real way to wealth is to expand our means, is to add more value, is to produce. It's not to cut everything out.
Find the money to get yourself out of credit card debt. You are just really wasting money. I wouldn't buy a cup of coffee anywhere ever, and I can afford it because I would not insult myself by wasting money that way.
Oh my, really insult yourself by buying a cup of coffee? You would never buy a cup of coffee? I mean, this is absurd. So you're never eating out at a restaurant? I mean, are you only drinking water because any other beverage costs money? Are you saying, well, you don't really need shoes because you got feet and you could walk without that? We could make an argument that everything, for the most part, is a want and not a need. And so if you're willing to live in 100 square feet, you could save so much money over having 1,000 square feet or 2,000 square feet. If you're willing to only own one pair of jeans for the rest of your life, I mean, hell, Susie, you got so many different jackets, you could make a lot more money by not buying these crazy ass jackets and investing that money, and then guess what? You could buy a friend a cup of coffee.
And I can afford it, and chances are you can't, but you could one day.
Okay, moving on from the first video about you should never ever have coffee unless you make it at your home. And you would never buy one because Susie could afford to buy one but chooses not to. I can guarantee she has other extravagant expenses that are much worse than $100 a month for this coffee. So let's see what happens on this next video and what kind of a terrible advice she's giving.
Let's go to Jody in Maryland now. Jody, You have a question for me, I bet.
I do. How are you doing, Susie?
I'm great tonight. Thank you so much, Jody. What can I do for you?
Okay, here's my little story. I'm 43 years old. I've racked up a good amount of debt in my life.
How much? Say it,
let's
Jody.
go
Say
with
it.
about 50.
50. All right.
50,000.
All right, you got it.
Okay, and the good news is I've also been saving, so I have over $130,000 in my 401k. Okay, and I have come to the realization now that I'm ready to get out of debt. I'm ready to change my lifestyle. And
you
not
want to
live
take a
this way.
loan from your 401k to pay off your $50,000 in debt so that you could be okay. That's what you want to ask me, right?
I don't want to take a loan. No,
What do you
I
want to do?
Pull it out.
No, you are.
I want to pull it out. I
Jody,
want to half
that's
my
even worse.
401k.
That is even worse than taking out a loan.
Oh, okay, first off, I can't even get through this again. Because what is a 401k making on the $130,000 that's in there? I don't know, best case scenario in the very best years. But when we look over it in a longer period of time, the stock market, if we look at from 2000 until today, it's been somewhere around 6% if you look at what's happened with the S&P 500 or the Dow. And yet, when we look at credit cards, they're definitely a higher cost than 6%. This credit card is creating a burden for her. She wants to get rid of it. She says she's ready to start something new, and she could get a guaranteed return by cashing this out and paying it off. Sure, there's going to be taxes now, but there's going to be taxes in the future. So when are those taxes ever going to go away? And the improvement of cash flow would be huge if she would just take this out. Now, one way was to borrow from the 401k. She just wants to cash out. Let's hear what Susie has to say about that.
If you take $130,000, you have $130,000 in your 401k. How much do you make per year?
About $120,000.
All right, $120,000. That puts you.
Okay, by the way, she has $130,000 saved in her 401k, which Susie seemed a little bit impressed by. She makes $120,000 a year, so how's she ever going to replace her income in mid-40s between now and retirement age? There's just not enough of the growth that's going to be here. It's got to be about cash flow today. It's got to be about efficiency, saving on tax, saving on interest, restructuring loans, paying things off, improving cash flow. Like, it's going to take so much more than this 401k.
You probably in one of the highest tax brackets out there. So you're going to
You're not in the highest tax bracket at $120,000.
have to take out, let's say, $100,000 from your 401k, or even more than that after penalties and taxes to pay off.
And, you know, to be fair, Susie can't talk about this right now, but there's no 10% penalty because of the CARES Act, and you can spread the taxes over 3 years, so you're not necessarily going to be in the highest tax bracket. So there's a solution that, to be fair, she didn't have that at the moment.
$50,000 of credit card debt when you, girlfriend, are making $100,000 a year, and you don't have what it takes to simply take $2,000 or $3,000 a month, and in a year and a half be out of credit card debt. You haven't changed your ways. You're doing something that's about to be stupid. Don't you dare do that. Can you get smart with the money that you're making and take that money and pay off your debt and just leave your 401k alone? You got that.
Yeah, I agree. Like, take care of your credit cards and all that kind of stuff. Do whatever it takes there. Change your habits. Okay, but to not touch the 401k when that can immediately improve cash flow, you could save a lot more money. It's about paying yourself first, building automated infrastructure, looking to expand your means. She's making a good income. Is there ways to make even more money? There's probably a lot of tax savings that can happen. There's probably a restructuring of loans. There's other loans we're not talking about beyond the credit card debt. And we got to really look at what's the real performance of this 401k. What is it doing for her? All right, on to the next video.
The right time for you to buy a home is when you want to buy a home, number one. And number two, when you know you can afford to buy a home. You know you can afford to buy a home when, number one, you have a very secure job, you have at least 20% to put down, and you have an 8-month emergency fund.
How do you know if you have a really secure job? That's kind of that's rhetoric. I just don't understand that. Okay, yeah, 20% down, fine. 8 months of savings, not bad.
Besides that, if those things are all plain and the real estate market is kind of in a situation where you can get a really good deal, then it might be time for you to buy a home. But not everybody has to buy a home to have financial freedom. Don't forget.
A home and financial freedom don't go hand in hand. Financial freedom is where money's no longer the primary reason or excuse why you would do or not do something. Really, economic independence and financial independence is having enough cash flow coming from assets to cover your basic expenses. Buying a home might increase that bar where there's more expense, and when a lot of people buy homes, they don't realize the additional expenses that go with it. Everything from like the first home we bought, then there's water softener salesmen or water filter salesmen that come to the house. There's furniture, there's space for TV, art, different painting, different window shades, putting in a yard. There's all these massive amounts of expenses and responsibility that can come with that. And so it's been sold as an American dream, but the question is it really what you truly want? If it is, it's a leisure or a luxury. It is not part of financial independence. And who's to say, is it a good time or a bad time? That's not enough detail to know whether you could do that or whether you could afford it. Having 20% down in addition to 8 months savings is going to really make it where a lot of people are not going to qualify for a home or even want to get a home. So I think let's hear what else she had to say.
Get that. If right now you have a rent payment of $1,000 a month, so you're looking to buy a house where a mortgage payment is $1,000 a month, you have to be very careful, because when you buy a home, you have property taxes, you have insurance, and you have maintenance, and all those things will cost you 40% more usually than your mortgage payment. So you're paying rent of $1,000 a month. Let's take right now an extra $400 per month and put it away in a savings account for 6 months. If that extra $400 a month, you can't afford that, all of a sudden you're struggling or you're late, you know that you are about to buy a home that's too expensive. If it was easy for you to do, here's the good news. Now you have 6 months, or in this case, you have $2,400 to put towards your closing costs. That's what I would do if I were you.
Look, like this really comes down to producing more, not just saving. Paying yourself first, great habit. Building up plenty of liquidity and savings, critical habit. Having, enough for a down payment, sure, that's part of the equation. But the question really comes down to, do you really want a home? Is it really part of the plan that you want? And she's right, there's additional expenses and things that go along with that home, but it's not part of financial freedom. It's not an asset. It's not an asset from a cash flow perspective. It's a liability. It's only an asset from a lifestyle perspective. So yes, there are more expenses associated with it. So what can you do to invest in yourself and make sure that that's not going to be siphoned in paying for a home? What can you do to make sure you have plenty of liquidity? And do you have the patience or the willingness to go out there and find the right home, to negotiate and get the right price for it? And maybe you're the type of person that could even buy a home and rent out a basement, an Airbnb, and create that cash flow. For my wife, that's not really what our process was about. But part of this philosophy that she has is all around saving, scrimping, sacrificing, and deferring. To me, the main game changer is producing more, increasing your income, expanding your means. And if you need to find the money to buy the home, find ways to save on tax, save on interest, save on insurance costs that are not transferring risks or that have duplicate coverage or costs, and save on investment fees, and you're going to be better off to be able to buy something like that. But the better you can get towards economic and financial independence before you make major purchases, the further along you'll be where everybody else is sacrificing and struggling just to make that payment. All right, let's jump to the last video and see how I react.
The biggest mistake I think young people make when investing is that they buy, they sell, this stock is cool, this company is great, I'm going to invest in that. Maybe you'll hit it right, maybe you'll hit it wrong. I think it would be far better for all of you to adopt the technique known as dollar cost averaging.
All right, I see where this is going. I just have to pause it right now. The biggest mistake young people make is not investing in themselves, relying upon a market they don't control, being overly invested in Wall Street and mutual funds without taking care of their cash flow first, their liquidity second, and investing regularly in themselves so they can expose their skill sets to add more value in the marketplace and produce more. Dollar cost averaging, the word averaging is in there. Who's here to be average? Who's excited for that? What dollar cost averaging says is turn your brain off, hand your money over, and hope for the best. It's saying the market goes up, you're buying less shares, the market goes down, you're buying more shares, but on average, you're going to buy at an average price. I get it, Susie. People don't do well at timing the market. Same with the fund managers for the most part. So why are we relying on Wall Street for our financial independence? Why are we relying on someone that we can't control with stocks that may or may not work, with fund managers that have plenty of turnover, with no downside protection, and we're telling them they're going to get a certain average? I just can't wait to see what she thinks people are going to earn on this.
Where you take a specific sum of dollars every single month and you invest it. When the market goes up, the shares you're buying, the prices go up, so you buy less shares. When the market goes down, the price of the shares go down, so your dollars buy more shares. Over the time, the cost of those shares are averaged so that you always come out ahead. If I were you, I would simply be putting my money every single month.
Okay, there's some dogma right there. So you always come out ahead? They're averaged, so you always come out ahead? Where is there any factual statement in what she said? It is complete hypothetical bullshit.
Into a good no-load Standard & Poor's 500 index fund or the SPY.
Oh, S&P 500, there we go. What a shock, Susie. Yeah, it's just gonna average a high rate. S&P, come on.
I would do it every single month, hopefully within a Roth IRA, and I would just do that month in and month out and month in and month out until you are old and gray, unless you color your hair like me.
Okay, so she says this is what she would do, but it's not what she does. She owns a business. She sells books. She makes a lot of money for her career because she invested in the skill set to teach about money, to have a personality on TV. She didn't make her money in Roth IRAs. She made her money in pitching Roth IRAs. She didn't make her money averaging through dollar cost averaging through S&P index funds. She made it by building skill sets. Don't listen to what she does, do what she does. All right, so to sum this up, what I noticed was it was all about saving, it was all about deferring and delaying, it was about accumulation, it was about what can you eliminate, what could you cut so you could invest in other things that you don't understand. It was about waiting for long periods of time when you're old and gray, missing out on memories along the way because wants versus needs. Well, what about quality of life? What about investing in yourself? The biggest mistake she said millennials make is by getting in and out of the stock market. Is that really the biggest mistake? I think the biggest mistake is being in the stock market in the first place and not investing in what they can do to add more value. Value creation is the key. Value exchange is what creates wealth. It's about expansion and production, not about scrimping and saving. I know what our answer is going to be because it's always about socking it away, and it's always over-reliant upon the stock market.